So the plan today is to begin clearing up the back woodyard here where the open-sided pole barn potentially will be built. A few trees are in the way, actually quite a few trees. There's more that need to come down than I realized, but instead of waiting and doing them all at once in like one long afternoon, I'm just gonna start taking care of the ones that I know I can probably handle. Well, we'll see. And then that way, that just makes less work that needs to be done at a later date. So just for disclaimer purposes, I am not a professional at this. I do not claim to really know what I'm doing. Some of these, I'm comfortable doing some of the smaller ones. So this tree right here, he's got a nice little lean, not too big, something I'm comfortable taking on. The only problem is in his path, there's those two little ones right there. And their canopies will probably get hung up in one another. So the first two to come down, I think are gonna be those two. So the one challenge that always comes up with trees when they're in close quarters and when they have big canopies like this is there's always a risk of getting them hung up where they won't fall all the way to the ground. And the first tree I try to drop, the smallest of all of them, I get it hung up. So I do want to leave a little bit of a stump on these trees because I may end up getting an excavator back here. And if that's the case, it'll just be a lot easier to dig those stumps out. If I don't get an excavator, I can always just cut those stumps off. And then if I get a stump grinder or something, I can just do that at that time. But I do want to leave the stumps a little bit high. The other thing I like to do with leaving a little higher stump is it gives me the ability to look up and watch that top of the tree, what it's doing, and just know when to get out of there. On the last tree, the pine tree, it did have a little bit of a lean that wasn't quite going the way I wanted it to. I wasn't sure if I would be able to direct it over to knock that other tree that was hung up down. The other challenge I had is there was a bit of a wind, a little bit of a breeze, and the top of that pine tree was catching a lot of air and kind of moving around. So it was a little sketchy. Well, I almost knocked that one out over there that was hung up. So 1, 2, so 4 trees down. Yes, it wasn't very pretty, but the main thing is the trees are on the ground, and yes, I was wearing hearing protection, for all those that are probably wondering. Now, all of these trees that are back here, they are all dead, except for the pine trees. All of the oak are either dead or they are dying. We have in our area what's called oak wilt, and it hits the oaks pretty hard. And so all of these oak trees back here, the last 2 years have just all died off. And so not only do they need to be removed to build the pole shed or the pavilion, but they would also need to come down either way just because they are dead and they do present a bit of a hazard. So like with most things around here in my wood yard, and I'm sure it's the same way in your wood yard, get a little work done, but usually what ends up happening is that little bit of work turns into a little bit more work. And there's still plenty of work to do. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, at least 15 more trees that need to come down back here before we start the build. But we'll get to that when we get to it. Overall, a good little morning out here in the wood yard. Like I said, now got a little bit of work done, but a little bit more to do.